Yep.
Okay,
Go for it.
catch Vav. Okay. If one cuffs another, he must give him a seller. Reb Yudah says in the name of Reb Yossi the Galilean, a mana. If he slaps him, he must give him 200 zuz with the back of his hand. He must give him 400 zuz. He pulls ears, tears his hair, splits at him, and spittle reaches him, removes his cloak, or uncovers a woman's hair in the street. He must pay 400 zuz. This is the general rule. It all depends on his wealth. Said Rabbi Akiva, even if the poorest of Jews are looked upon as if they were sons of noblemen who lost their wealth, for they are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. There was an incident of one who uncovered a woman's hair in the street. She came before Rabbi Akiva, who sentenced him to give her 400 zuz, and said to him, Rabbi, if for her I'm sorry, for her time, and he waited give me some time, and he waited some time. He waited for her until she saw her standing at the entrance of her courtyard, and then broke a jug which contained oil worth an isser in her presence. She uncovered her hair and was scooping it up and placed it on her head, a hand on her head, and she set up witnesses against her and came before Rabbi Kiva. Said to him, Rabbi, to this one I should give 400 zuz. He said to him, you have said nothing. Therefore, if one wounds himself, although he may not, he is exempt. Yet if others wound him, they are liable. And if one cuts off his own shoots, he is exempt. Yet if others cut off his shoots, they are liable. But although he pays him, he is not forgiven for it until he seeks forgiveness from him, as it said, but now return the wife. From where do we know this, that the one who forgives should not be cruel? It is said, and Avram prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech. If one says, blind my eye, cut off my hand, or break my leg, he is liable. On occasion to be exempt, he is liable. Tear my clothes or break my jug, he is liable. On occasion to be exempt, he is exempt. Do this to so and so on condition that you exempt, he is liable whether it is against the body or against his property. Okay.
One more.
If one steals a steals wood and makes it into utensils or wood, and makes it into garments, he pays for it at the time of the robbery. If one steals a pregnant cow and the calves or ewe bearing wool, then he shears it. He pays the value of the cow ready to calve or the value of the ewe ready to be shorn. If one steals a cow and it becomes impregnated with him, and it calves or ewe and it becomes laden with wool while with him, and he shears it, he pays at the time of the robbery. This is the general rule. All robbers pay at the time of the robbery. Okay.
Okay. Gazal behema v'hizkina. What happens if he stole an animal and the animal grew old, too old, in fact, to do any work? Okay. Avadim v'hizkinu. Also, he stole the slave, and the slave was also became too old to do work. Mishalem kashasa gazela. Now, this says the Tanakama is considered a change in the body of whatever he stole. Therefore, he does not return what he stole. He must return the value that he stole. Rabbi Meir Omer ba'avadim Omer lo harei shalach lefanecha. He says that's not true with slaves. Slaves are the same person. He concedes the point about the animal that got old, but not about the slave. He says the slaves you can't actually steal like that. Um, Gaz Gazal matbea v'nistak. What happens if a person stole a coin and the coin became cracked? Peros v'hirkivu. He stole produce and rotted. Yain v'hichmitz. He stole wine and it went sour. Mishalem kishas hagzelo. In all these cases, there's been a clear and obvious change in the guf of whatever got stolen, and therefore it's the Gazlan has acquired the object, and he now has to pay back the monetary value at the time it was stolen. Okay. But this is where there's an obvious change in the body of what was stolen. What happens if the change is not physically visible? For example, matbea v'nifsal. He stole a coin and the coin went out of circulation. They replaced it with a new coin, so it's no longer of any value. Now the coin itself didn't change. It just lost its value. Truma v'nitmes. He stole truma and was matamayat. Okay, now the coin can't eat it anymore, so it has changed, but you can't see. There's no physical change to the truma. Chametz v'avar alav Pesach. He stole chametz and kept it over Pesach. Behema v'nevda ba'avera. He stole an animal and the animal was worshipped, for example, as an avodah zarah. So now it's asur b'hana. or shenifsela me'al gabe hamizbeach, or it was made puzzle from going onto the mizbeach in either of these cases. Or shahaisa yotes lisakel, or now the animal went and killed somebody and it was sentenced to stoning. So now the Gazlan can say, okay, Omer harei shelach lefanecha. He can take the object and give it back to the owner and say, look, this is yours. It hasn't changed, and you can take it back. Okay, nasan leumanim letaken. What happens if a person gives an object to a craftsman to repair, and instead of repairing it, they broke it? Chayvin l'shalem. So the craftsman is liable unless he's got some sort of waiver that you sign that he accepts no liability. But in the Stam case, if he broke it, he has to pay for the damage. Nasan lecharash shida teva umigdal letaken. He gives a carpenter um, a box or a chest or a cupboard to fix. But kill chayav l'shalem, um, which is uh, basically the same as the first part of the Mishnah. What's the difference is that one is he created is even if he created something new and broke it, and the one is if he took something to repair and broke it. In both cases, he's chayav for the damages. Habanai shekibel alav listoris hakosel. So you called in a builder to knock down a wall, but you're expecting to reuse the bricks or the stones. The shiber is avanim or shehizik, or he broke or he damaged the stones. Chayav l'shalem. That's on the banai. He was told to preserve the materials, and if he broke it, then he's chayav. Haya soser mitzad zeh v'nafal mitzad acher patur. However, if he started knocking on one side of the wall and it fell somewhere else and broke, that's too indirect to blame him. V'im machmas hamaka. But if it was directly because of his blow, if it was in a place in the wall where he should have been able to anticipate that something was going to fall, then he's chayav. Mishnah Daled Hanosen Tzemer Latzaba. He gives undyed wool to a dyer to in order to color it. V'hikdicha tu yora, and he burned it. Okay, no sen lo demate samro. Then the dyer, of course, has to pay him the value of the wool. What happens if he does a bad job? Tzavao kaur, he colored it, but colored it badly. So did he? Nonetheless, having colored it, it was a very slight improvement in the value of the wool. So now he is entitled to a certain amount of payment because he didn't actually do damage, but what he did do was a bad job. But he's entitled to something for his effort. So what does he get for his effort? If the improvement in the wool is more than the amount that the dyer spent, then he pays him his expenses. But if the expenses are more than how much the wool improved, in other words, he gives him the lesser of the two. Okay, either the improvement in the wool or however much he spent, it's the lesser of the two. Litzboa lo adom utzva shachor. He said, "I want you to dye it red," and the guy got confused and dyed it black, or vice versa. He asked him to dye it black, and he dyed it red. So Rabbi Meir comes and says, "No sen lo demeit samro." He says you must pay him the value of the wool. Why does Rabbi Meir say this? Because his svara is that what's happened is that the dyer is a shaliach. He said you must dye this wool red. When he went and dyed it black, he violated his shlichus and therefore became a gazlan. Because now he's now effectively stolen the wool, and now what he must do to restitute it? He must pay back at the value of when he stole it. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, im hashvach yoser al yitzia, nosen lo isa yitzia, v'meyatzia yoser al hashvach, nosen lo isa shvach. He says, no, you judge it like the case where he dyed it badly. He says it's no different. He improved the value of the wool, but it was just not what you wanted. So therefore, you only pay him the minimum of either his expenses or of the improvement that he put into the wool. Okay,
Hmm.
back to hey.
Okay. If one digs a pit in the private domain and it opens into a public domain, or if he digs in it in a public domain and opens to a private domain, or if he digs in a private domain and opens it to another private domain, he's liable. If one digs a pit in the public domain and a bull or a donkey falls into it and he dies, he's liable. Whether one digs a pit, a trench, a cave, quadrilateral pits, or wedge-leg pits, he's liable. If so, why is a pit stated? To teach us that just as a pit is deep enough to cause death, being hand to fucking, and so is everything that is deep enough to bring about death. Being 10 to fuck them, it is if they are less than 10 to fuck deep, or a bull or donkey fell in it and died, he is exempt. If it isn't, he is liable. If a pit belongs to two partners and the first one passes by and does not cover it, and the second one passes by and does not cover it, the second one is liable. If the first one covers it, the second one comes and finds it uncovered and does not cover it, the second one is liable. He covers it properly, or a bull or a donkey falls into it and dies, he is exempt. If he does not cover it properly and a bull or donkey falls into it, he is liable. If it fell forward because of the sound of digging, he is liable. Backward because of the sound of digging, he is exempt. If an ox with a trapping falls into it and they break, or a donkey and its trappings, and they tear, he is liable for an animal, but exempt for trappings. If a bull that was deaf, foolish, or young falls into it, he is liable. He's liable. A male child, a female child, a male slave, or a female slave, he is exempt. A bull and all other animals are like as regards falling into a pit. Separation provides Sinai. The two payments according to loss, unloading, muzzling, kalayim, and Shabbats. The same applies to wild beasts and few and fowl. So, if so, when and as an ox the donkey stated, because Scripture speaks of the usual.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. We have test base.
Yeah.
If one said you are permitted to every man except father and your father, my brother and your brother, or a slave and Pental, or anyone with whom she cannot have kedushin, it is valid. If she said you were permitted to every man except if she was a widow to the Kohen Gadol, or if she was a divorcee or a kalusa to an ordinary Kohen, or if she was a mamzer reus or a Nusidite to a regular Jew, or if she was the daughter of a regular Jew to a mamzer or a Nesanite, or to anyone with whom she can have kedushin, even illicitly, it is void. The essence of every get is you are permitted to every man. Rabbi Yehuda said, and this which shall be to you from me is a writ of divorce, and a letter of abandonment, and a bill of divorce, to go to be married to any man you want. The essence of the document of emancipation is you are a free woman. You are to yourself. The re-get no void, but if he married the offspring unto his legitimate and he wrote it with the handwriting, there are no witnesses on it. There are witnesses on it, but it has no date. If it has a date, but it has only one witness, there are three getting to avoid. These three written are void. But if he married, the offspring is legitimate. Elazar says, although there are no witnesses on it, but he gave it to her in the presence of witnesses, it is valid. And one collects for mortgage payments because witness signed on a document for only the sale of the sake of the event of general good.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, an arm. Okay. Yud hey. Gimel hey. If a person said, let the saplings be an offering if they are not felled, let this be cloaked for an offering if it's not burnt, they can be redeemed. The saplings are an offering until they felled, and the wool is an offering until it's burnt. They cannot be redeemed. One who makes a net of publishing those who see the sun is forbidding to benefit even for the blind, for he is referred to only to those liable to the sun. One who makes a net of prohibiting darkness-headed people is forbidden to benefit from bald-headed people and hoary people. But if he's permitted to benefit from a woman and children, hence, since only adult male are called dark-headed.
Um.
That was it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we actually went one extra because there was one short one there.
Oh,
Never mind. Okay.
Arabic. We have Jude Gimel. They said to him, I'm sorry, if one was reading a book of scripture on the threshold and the book rolls from his hand, he may roll it to himself. He was reading on top of the roof and the book rolled from his hand, as long as it has not yet reached within 10 tefachim of the ground, he may roll it to himself. Once it has reached 10 tefachim, he should return it over on its writing. Rabbi Yehuda says, even if it only removed from the ground by the width of a needle, he may roll it to himself. Rabbi Shimon says, even on the very ground, he may roll it to himself, for no rabbinically permitted matter may stand in the way of that holy scriptures. A ledge, which is in front of a window, one may put onto it and take from it on Shabbos. A person who may stand in a private domain and move objects in a public domain on a public domain and move objects in a private domain, provided he does not take them beyond 12 cubits. What person not may stand in a private domain and urinate in a public domain, or in a public domain, public domain, and urinate in a private domain? Ultimately, he may not expectorate. Maybe Judah says even when one's saliva has become detached in his mouth, he may not walk 4 cubits until he expectorates.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're on to Nida. Dal Gimel. Concerning Yidden blood of a Gentile woman and Tahar blood of a Masaris, but Shammai renders both of these bloods Tahor. But Red Seal says the blood of each of these women is liable, is like a spittle and like a urine. The blood of a woman who gave birth and did not yet immerse in a mikveh, which Shammai says is like her saliva and in your urine. But Beis Hillel says it generates tumah through both moist and dry. But Beis Shammai concedes concerning a woman who gave birth in a state of stiva that her blood generates tumah in both moist and dry. A woman who bleeds in labor is considered a nida. If a woman was bleeding in labor for 3 days within her 11 days period, potential stiva, if she had relief for 24 hours and gave birth, she is deemed to be one who had given birth in a state of ziva. These words are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says, a night and a day like the night of the Sabbath and its day. This means that she has relief from the pain and not from the flow of blood. How long can a woman's labor last? Rabbi Meir says, even 40 or 50 days. Rabbi Yehuda says her mouth is full of childbirth is sufficient for her. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say there is no labor for more than 2 weeks.
Okay. That's it. And finally,
Excuse me?
yeah, now we're on to Bechoros.
Right. For us, and we have well, if a ewe which had previously given birth bore 2 males, and their 2 marriages emerged simultaneously, Brosi Higili says both belong to a Kohen, so it is stated the males are to Hashem. The sages, however, said it's impossible. Rather, one lamb is his and one goes to the Kohen. Reb Tarfon says the Kohen selects the better one for himself. Reb Akiva says the fatter one is that the issue between them, while the second one is left to pasture until it develops a blemish. And it's subject to the law of gifts to the Kohen. Reb Yossi exempts it. If one of them died, Reb Tarfon says they divide. Reb Akiva says that the burden of proof lies on the one who seeks to exact something from the other. And if a male or female were born first, there is nothing here for a Kohen. If 2 ewes had not been previously given birth to 2 males, he gives them both to a Kohen. If they bore a male and a female, the male belongs to the Kohen. If they bore 2 males and a female, one belongs to him and one to the Kohen. Reb Tarfon says the Kohen selects the better one for himself. Reb Akiva says the fatter one is that issue between them, where the second lamb is left to pasture and it develops a blemish, and is subject to the laws and gifts to the Kohen. Reb Yossi exempts it. If one of them died, Reb Tarfon says divide Reb Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says the burden of proof is on the one who seeks to exact something from the other. If they bore 2 males, females, and a male, or 2 males and 2 females, there is nothing here for the Kohen. Okay.
One more.
Good. If one which had previously given birth and one had not previously given birth, now for 2 males, and one previously belongs to him and one goes to a Kohen. But Tarfon says the Kohen selects the better one for himself, and Rabbi Akiva says the fatter one is that issue between them. While the second lamb is left to pasture, and until it develops a blemish, and is subject to the law of gifts for the Kohen. Yossi exempts it, he exempts it. Rabbi Yossi was one to say whatever has a substitute in the Kohen's hand exempt from the law of gifts to the Kohen, and Reb Meir subject to the gifts. If one of them died, Reb Tarfon says they divide. Rabbi Akiva says the burden of proof lies on the one who seeks to exact something from the other. If they bore a male and a female, there's nothing yet for a Kohen.
Okay. That's it.
All right, great.
All right.
Okay. Have a great day.
Good day.
I'll
Good
see
day.
you. Oh, okay.